When my office door blasted off its hinges, I knew I had a new client. Either that or the rats were looking for red meat again. But this guy wasn't a rat. He filled the doorway, and not just with his frustration. "Name's Bob," he said, "and I'm in trouble." They're always in trouble. That's why they come to me. I'm a writer crash tester. After 17 years and 32 novels of my own, I can shake down a plot, twist a sentence like a pretzel, and slam a paragraph against a wall until it begs mercy. I take no prisoners, I brook no excuses. And now I'm on the case of the undead patrician. Bob needed answers and needed them fast. He handed me a sheaf of papers and said, "I want epic, I want mythic, and this is good, but it's bad. I don't know why. I don't know how." So I started reading. Petralcius moved slowly, his frail form hidden by the folds of his toga. As he walked to the seat of honor, his eyes scanned the room. I'm not sure what he saw there that first night. A small crowd of elite patricians gathered to pay homage, board officials who saw some merit in appearing publicly at a prestigious event, or a pack of jackals looking for some tidbit they could fight over to their advantage at some later time. At first, people had thought that the slow change of his hair to snowy white was a mark of favor from the gods. After all, he had been their cupbearer in his youth, their first cupbearer. But no, it was not his hair that had marked him as special. It was his longevity that proved he continues to be favored by the 12 he served over 400 years earlier. No other mortal has lived nearly a third as long. Even though his appearance was of a match to any senator in their 70s, Petralcius's eyes were still bright and his voice carried strongly throughout the room. His knowledge of the history of mankind and the private clashes between the gods ensured that he was treated with the utmost dignity and respect. There are very few within the walls of Verdios who have earned that high an honor, before or since. That night, as the servants cleared away the plates of roast quail, figs, and a slightly too salty goat cheese, Petralcius readied himself to answer questions from the assembled patricians. I looked around the room and was amazed at the number of people sitting side by side this evening who had been threatening to tear out each other's organs for the crows to feast on just that afternoon. I can only surmise that the opportunity to hear firsthand the secrets of the gods was worth delaying a few vendettas. As the oil lamps were refilled, the questions began. At first they were nothing more than insults hurled at the aforementioned opponents veiled as thinly disguised questions about the nature of this or that deity. These were followed by the predictable inquiries into Nemus's daily life and his love affair with Pomona. It amazes me still that Petralcius was there the day the 11 presented their brother with a wife handmade for him. I tell you, the story has never been dimmed by the retelling. Then a young man, who most clearly bore the features of the pithy family, asked a simple question, in a clear, strong voice. How did everything begin? Those with the clarity to see such things noted Petralcius's eyes as they sparkled, the shift in his posture, and the slight smile that stole across his features. It was as if he was meeting a challenge from the youngest of the Pythir, the family of secrets. With a nod to the assembled guests, he began his tale. I have set down his words as he spoke them that night. Yes, the patrician must die. But do you know why? First off, let me say that this piece is beautifully written. It's elegant. The language is very good. It flows. Initially, we are drawn into the story of a man whom others have gathered to pay homage to. We want to know what would bring enemies together to honor one man. And 400 years does count for something on the interest scale. We are willing to consider that, like the people who have gathered to honor him, we may find something worthwhile in the fact that this man has been around for 400 years. Yeah, I like the fact that he was a cupbearer of the god, that he was 400 years old, that there was something that he had done in his past that marked him as special. But here's where things start going very, very wrong. We get some small details about him that we frankly do not care about. Okay, he looks like he's only 70 even though he's 400. Yeah. His knowledge of the history of mankind and the private clashes between the gods ensured that he was treated with the utmost dignity and respect, yada, yada, yada. We don't care. Fine, he has been honored. We already got that. We don't need more of it. And then we are now deep into the heart of ignoring human nature. As we hear about the roast quail and the figs and the slightly too salty goat cheese, we also hear that all of these people have gathered to hear a story. That we can only surmise that the opportunity to hear firsthand the secrets of the gods was worth delaying a few vendettas. Okay, maybe we'll think about it, but we need something really good next. And instead, we get something that is not good. Just because the writer wishes something is so does not make it so. And here we come to the heart of the problem. We are presented with a man who has been telling a story for 400 years. And we are told by the narrator, I tell you, the story has never been dimmed by the retelling. My son, who is 11, tells this joke, and it goes like this. A duck walked into a bar and said to the bartender, do you have any grapes? The bartender said no. The duck walked out. A moment later, he walked back in and said to the bartender, do you have any grapes? And the bartender said, no. The duck walked out, and a moment later, walked back in and said, do you have any grapes? And the bartender said, if you ask me again if I have any grapes, I'll nail your feet to the floor. The duck walked out. A moment later, he walked back in, and he said to the bartender, do you have any nails? The bartender said no. The duck said, do you have any grapes? My older son, when he was 19, told this to my younger son, who was at the time 7. I have probably heard that joke, which was a good joke the first time I heard it, about 1,000 times in the ensuing 5 years. Jokes and stories get old.